Letter 39. Bethany, 40 days after the resurrection. My dearest Father, with emotions that nearly deprive me of the power to hold my pen, and with trembling fingers that make the words I write almost illegible, I sit down to make known to you the extraordinary event which will mark this day in all future time as the most worthy to be noted among men. On the 40th day after the resurrection, my dear Father, early in the morning, Jesus left the house of Mary and Lazarus, where he had sat up with us all night, speaking to us of the glories of the life above, and the excellency of heart and purity of life required of all who should enter it. Lord, said Martha as he went forth, whither goest thou?
Come and see.
He answered,
Whither I go ye shall know, and the way ye shall know. For where I am, ye shall also be, and all those who believe in me.
Lord, said Mary, kneeling at his feet, return at noon and remain with us during the heat of the day.
Mary,
said Jesus, laying his hand gently upon her forehead,
I am going to my Father's house. There thou shalt dwell with me in mansions not made with hands.
Thus speaking, he walked slowly onward towards the hill of Bethany, not far from the place where Lazarus was buried. He was followed not only by Mary, Martha, Lazarus, and John, my cousin Mary, and myself, but by all the disciples. There were at least 500 persons in all, moving on with him ere he reached the green hillside beyond the village, for all followed him, expecting to hear more glorious revelations from his lips.
He goes to the hill to pray,
said one of his disciples.
Nay, he goeth to show us some mighty miracle from the expression of power and majesty in his aspect,
said Thomas to me, gazing upon the Lord with awe. For each moment as he ascended the hill, his countenance grew more glorious with a certain godlike majesty, and shone as the face of Moses descending from Mount Sinai. We all hung back with adoring awe, and alone he proceeded onward, a wide space being left by us between ourselves and him. Yet there was no terror in the glory which surrounded and shined out from him, but rather a holy radiance that seemed to be the very light of holiness and peace.
So looked he,
said John to us,
when we beheld him transfigured in the mount with Elias and Moses.
The hill, which is not lofty, was soon surmounted by his sacred feet. He stood upon its apex alone. We kept back near the brow of the hill, for his raiment shone now like the sun, while his countenance was as lightning. We shaded our eyes to behold him. All was now expectation, and a looking for some mighty event, what we knew not. John drew nearest to him, and upon his knees, with clasped hands, looked towards him earnestly, for he knew, as he afterwards told us, what would take place. Joy and yet tears were on his face as he gazed with blinded eyes, as one gazes on the noonday sun, upon his divine master. It was a scene, dear Father, impressive beyond expression. Jesus seemed for a moment to survey the scenes of his sufferings, of his ignominy and death, with the look of a divine conqueror. He then turned to his disciples and said,
Ye have been with me in my sorrows, and you shall now begin to behold my glory. Remember all things which I have taught you concerning my kingdom. Go forth and teach the glad tidings of salvation to all men, and baptize all nations in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Ghost. And lo, I am with you always, even unto the end of the world.
Thus speaking, in a voice that thrilled every bosom with emotions indescribable, he extended his hands above their heads and blessed them, while we all fell upon our faces to the ground also to receive his blessing. He then lifted up his eyes to the calm blue depths of heaven, and said in the same words he had spoken on the night of the Passover, as John had told me, And now, O Father, glorify thou me with thine own self, with the glory which I had with thee before the world was. As he spoke, we raised our faces from the ground to behold him leaving the earth, rising from the hilltop into the air with a slow and majestic ascension, his hands outspread over us who were beneath, as if shedding down blessings upon us all. The loud burst of surprise which rose from 500 voices at seeing him soar away into the atmosphere was followed by a profound and awful silence as we watched him rise and still rise, ascending and still ascending into the upper air, his whole form growing brighter and brighter as the distance widened between his feet and the earth. Upon our knees in speechless wonder, we followed his ascent with our amazed eyes, not a word being spoken by any soul. Nay, hearts might have been heard beating in the intense expectation of the moment. Lo, in the far-off height of heaven, we beheld suddenly appear a bright cloud, no larger than a man's hand, but each instant it expanded and grew broader and brighter, and swift as the winged lightning, descended through the firmament downward, until we beheld it evolve itself into a glittering host of angels which no man could number, countless as the stars of heaven. As these shining legions descended, they parted into two bands, and sweeping along the air met the ascending Son of God in mid-sky. The rushing of their 10,000 times 10,000 wings was heard as the sound of many waters. Surrounding Jesus like a shining cloud, they received him into their midst, and hid him from our eyes amid the glories of their celestial splendor. Now came to our ears the sounds of heavenly song, a sublimer chorus than earth ever heard before. From the squadrons of seraphim and cherubim encircling with their linked wings the Son of God, came, like the unearthly music one hears in the dreams of night, these words receding as they mounted upward with the conqueror of death and hell. Lift up your heads, O ye gates, and be ye lifted up, ye everlasting doors, and the King of glory shall come in. This chorus seemed to be answered from the inmost heavens, as if an archangel were standing at its portals, keeping watchful guard over the entrance facing the earth. Who is the King of glory? The Lord strong and mighty, even the Lord mighty in battle against principalities and powers, was chanted back from the ascending escort of Jesus in the sublimest strains of triumphant joy. Lift up your heads, O ye gates, and be lifted up, ye everlasting doors, and the King of glory shall come in. Upon this we heard a mighty voice, as it were in heaven, accompanied by the sound of a trumpet, and 10,000 voices about the throne of Jehovah seemed to say, God is coming up with a shout. He rideth upon the heavens. He ascendeth on high. He hath led captivity captive, and received gifts from men. O clap your hands, all ye people of earth. Shout his triumph, ye hosts of heaven. Fling wide your gates, O city of God. Be ye lifted up, ye everlasting doors, for the King of glory enters in. Ascending and still ascending, receding and still receding, fainter and fainter came down to earth the angelic choruses, when at length the brightest cloud of angels faded away into the upper heaven, the Son of God shining in their midst like a central sun surrounded by a luminous halo, till finally, like a star, they remained a few moments longer, and then the heavens received him out of our sight. While we stood gazing up into the far skies, hoping, expecting, yet doubting if we should ever behold him again, two bright stars seemed to be descending from the height of heaven above us. In a few seconds we saw that they were angels. Alighting on the place where Jesus had left, they said to the 11, Why gaze ye up into heaven, ye men of Galilee? This same Jesus whom ye have seen go into heaven shall so come in like manner as ye have now seen him ascend. Thus speaking, they vanished out of our sight. Such, my dear Father, is the appropriate crowning event of the extraordinary life of Jesus, both Lord and Christ. His kingdom, therefore, my dear Father, clearly not of this world, as he said to Pilate, the procurator, but it is above. Doubt then no longer, dearest Father. Jesus, the Son of Mary, in his human nature, was the Son of God in his divine nature, an incomprehensible and mysterious union, whereby he had brought together in harmony the two natures, separated far apart from sin by giving his own body as an offering to reconcile both in one immaculate body upon the cross. There is now no more condemnation to them who believe in him and accept him. But I cannot write all I would say to you, dearest Father. When we meet, which you rejoice me in saying will be on the first day of the week at Jerusalem, I will unfold to you all that the divine and glorified Jesus has taught me. Doubt not that he is Messiah. Hesitate not to accept him, for he is the end of Moses and of the law and of the prophets, the very Shiloh who should come and restore all things, to whom be glory, power, dominion, majesty, and excellency evermore. Your loving daughter, Adina.
The End. The Prince of the House of David by J. H. Ingram.